Hello, and welcome back to the Modeling Success in Action podcast. I'm your host, Jessica, and today I am joined by the fabulous Dr. Larissa van As. She is a naturopathic doctor, kinesiologist, and wellness educator who blends science with soul. She's known for her root cause approach to chronic pain, gut health, and hormones, going deeper than symptoms to create lasting change. Her mission is to weave together systems of healing that bridge physiology with intuition to create a new paradigm of care. Thank you so much for joining me today, Larissa.
Thank you so much for having me, Jessica. I'm super excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm sure this is going to be a great conversation. I have had the pleasure of collaborating with Larissa before. We just put on an event last month about, stress and our views, and, the way that she's approaching this is really from kind of a similar perspective, because we're looking at, how people's, nervous systems and how they're interacting with life is really impacting all of the different things, whether it's health or, success or functioning or whatever. So tell me a little bit, Larissa, how does your, model of this root cause care, like what does that mean to you? And like, what's your experience in that?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I think if we take, do you want to give me a condition and I'll just roll with it?
Oh, let's go gut health.
Okay, perfect. Gut health. So there's a couple things. Bloating's a really good one because very common. So there's a few things. We could slap some what I call band-aids on it, right? Maybe there's certain foods that are making you bloated. So some people eliminate the foods, or maybe it's a lack of digestive enzymes. So there's supplements out there that can reduce bloating. And those are great when needed. But if you continue using those, you become dependent on them or dependent on an elimination diet or whatever it is. Versus if we actually get to the root cause and we figure out what's causing the bloating in the first place. Now, whether that is stress, a bad bug in the gut, microbiome issues, not enough good bugs in the gut, right? There's all these reasons. Hormones are involved too. If we can get to the root, it gives people a lot of freedom and it gives them, the power of being connected to themselves again. I'm all for band-aids in moments of time. I'm not against them, but I think they're very overused. And we're in this model of healthcare and society where people are just quick fixing. And I mean, we could get into the consumerism side of it too, but if we're just dependent on these things, it's not actually bringing people back to themselves and empowering them to heal. And so my role as a naturopathic doctor is to actually band-aid when needed, right? But dig a little bit deeper and actually ask people the really good questions, the hard questions, and see if we can find, and it's not sometimes one thing, sometimes it's multiple things that are at the root of what they're struggling with. Because I want to give people freedom. I want to give them their lives back, their bodies back. I don't want them to be dependent forever.
Yeah.
That's
And I like that you say band-aid when needed, because sometimes it's like you just got to stop the bleeding. You just have to and then you can go, where did this come from? Why is this happening? How do we stop it from happening again? Right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But I mean, I see that same work, with my clients, right? Where they're coming in and we come up with all these band-aids, these coping mechanisms to get by, to get through, right? And it's like we're kind of limping along and going, oh, it's holding for now, but it's not giving me exactly what I need. But then when you can get to the root of what's going on, then all of a sudden you have no need for that crutch or that band-aid anymore.
Yes.
Right? You're healed.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what's interesting? People probably will deal with or not deal with, but grip to their coping mechanism for as long as they possibly can. And then I'm sure you see this too. The moment the coping gets taken away. So, for example, let's take exercise, right? Stress, anxiety, all the things we deal with. Exercise is a beautiful coping. I would argue it's one of the healthier copings, right? Yeah, it's good for you. And then you get injured and you can't exercise. And now you're stuck and you feel anxious and you're stressed out and you don't know what to do. And I think that just draws us back. You can exercise for the sake of exercising because it's good for you. But when you're dependent on it to deal with your emotions is when you actually haven't gotten to the root yet.
Mm-hmm. When people who are running are literally running from something, right?
Oh, yes. Yeah. I had this conversation with a friend the other day.
Yeah.
And he was like, runners, man, they're always running from something. And he's very intuitive on a soul level. So we were laughing about that as well.
Yeah.
Not all of them, but it's
No,
true.
Right? Yeah. I mean, some of them just love how it feels, and it's a way that they get their movement, and that's just what works for them. But some people, when you see, what they're doing, and they're telling you, "Well, I've got this and that and the other," and you're like,
Okay.
what are you avoiding by doing all this running? What's really happening there? Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, that's so awesome. So, okay, so when you say that you're coming from this root cause approach, is this a new model of healthcare? Like, is this something that's just burgeoning?
Yeah, it's this is a long tangent I could probably go on, but
Well, we've got time. We just tuned
yeah,
in.
that's what podcasts are for, not 30-second clips. Um, yeah, you know what's interesting? I don't think this is actually commonly done. And there's a couple of reasons I say that. One, I teach a lot of holistic wellness professionals, and I mentor. And what I'm seeing in the schooling systems of more of the holistic health stuff is we're teaching by conditions. So, what are the things for IBS, or what are the things for PMS, or what are the things for high cholesterol, or what are the things for diabetes, right? And I think it's a very conventional model when you look at, let's say, medical doctors and conventional medicine. That's how they go about it. It's not wrong, right? It's just one model of care. And I think that model of care works beautifully for band aids, right? So let's say something urgent, you break your arm. Yeah, you're going to want a diagnosis of your arm is fractured, and you're going to want to be in the hospital, and you're going to want probably conventional care. Beautiful, quick, efficient, get the problem solved. Awesome, right? The root cause was you fell.
Yeah, the broken arm. Yeah. Exactly.
So
Yeah.
it's a beautiful model for what it's good for, right? And I think we can recognize that. But when it comes to chronic health conditions and stress and lifestyle stuff and, you know, women's health too, I think beautifully fits into what I'm going to call my more model of care than conventional in a way, only for certain things. The we run into this problem where, okay, here's your problem, here's your solution, goodbye. But when you have a chronic issue, there's no space for what are you dealing with? Like, what is your problem? But also, how is it affecting you? Like, let me hear your story, because when you've been dealing with chronic pain for 12 years, here's a drug, get out of my office. Or here's a drug, sorry, I don't have any time to listen to you. Helps this much, this percent, right? And we also need space for that story to be heard. So I think that that is one, whether it is counseling or just somebody that has the time to listen. So that is a piece. But what I started noticing through teaching is that because in the holistic space, we're also teaching by condition, we're missing the entire piece of we're supporting like the entire body. I'm not supporting somebody just with a pimple, right? I want to know why it's there, and I want to know their diet and their stress and their gut health. And so I think it has led to a lot of people in the holistic wellness space treating and supporting in a conventional model when maybe what we're doing isn't as meant to fit that model of care. And so what I've started doing is treating in a what I call a root cause way, where yes, I can band-aid. And then when you're ready and willing, and if you want to, let's dive deeper. Let's run some functional labs. Let's have the whole conversation around stress, and let's actually see what's underlying. And then I can start to treat those, because there's really only a few categories of root cause when you get down to it.
Mhm. But you're so right. They have to want to, right? They've
Yeah.
got to be willing, because it isn't usually just a pill or a band-aid. It is usually some sort of lifestyle change, or, coming to terms with what's really going on, and being in acceptance of it so that you can modify what needs to be going on,
Mm. I
right?
love the words being in acceptance of it.
Yeah.
That was so beautifully put. Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, and sometimes people aren't ready, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. I mean, for myself, not to overshare with the listeners here, but everybody in my family, all of the women struggle with, let's call them, gut issues, right? It's a pretty common thing for women, and all of the women in my family have something going on. And lucky me, so does my father. He's got something else. He's got another thing that that's impacting the digestion. And so I, lucky me, got all of it. And so I got to go to, specialists that like they are GI doctors. All that they do all day long is, run labs and colonoscopies and, that's their whole life. And I was like, great, I'm in awesome hands. And I go in there and they go, you have IBS. And I'm like, yeah, no, I knew that. And they're like, great. I'm like, and what would you like me to like, what, like, well,
And
that you have it. Okay. And that was it. And it wasn't, there was no like, here's a resource for managing your stress. There was no, here are some ways that you can, change your diet or, pay attention or there was nothing. It was just, yeah, here it is. And you're going to have to live with that forever. And
Mhm.
maybe that's true, but I'm sure there's a way to make it as good as it possibly can be. And I know through what I've done, through hypnosis, through meditation, through yoga, through all of the different channels of wellness that I've just been, pulling on the threads of myself, that has been the thing that has, helped me be able to manage these issues in a way more comfortable way. And
Yeah.
it wasn't this, specialist with all his degrees on the wall that does nothing but, look at this exact, kind of stuff all day long. That's not where the help came from. He wasn't even, handing me a band-aid. He was like, yeah, you can just keep bleeding over there.
Oh boy, right?
you know?
Oh yeah, I have so much to say on this. Okay, two things.
Yeah.
One about support for IBS. And two, just like I'm saying this, so if my brain goes on a tangent, we remember what the two things are.
Okay,
One,
support. Yeah.
support for IBS. And two, I think you brought up a really, 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 really important point. I'm going to talk about this one first. Of healing doesn't always happen in the context of a one-on-one clinical appointment.
Yeah.
Yes, this is like one of my biggest pet peeves is I think, again, if we go back to models of care, problem, solution, goodbye is, and it is, I don't mean this in terms of genders, but just in terms of more philosophies like masculine and feminine energy. The masculine energy of like, let me solve a solution, right? That is really deeply integrated into our healthcare system. What's your problem? Here's your solution. You're welcome. Goodbye. Right? Works beautifully for certain things. But then we come to chronic health. And I think sometimes there actually needs to be a blend of feminine energy where it's like, I hear you, I see you, I support you, you're held. Like that energy, I think needs to be infused. And how we do that, I mean, I don't know, we're working on it, right? I get the luxury of time with my patients as a naturopathic doctor. So I think that does get infused, hopefully, into what I'm doing. I try. And then let's say outside of a one-on-one appointment, you go to see a doctor, you go to see a physio, a chiropractor, whatever it is, you spend your 20, 30 minutes with them, and then you leave. That time isn't to fix you. That time is to guide you, right?
Mhm.
I'm a light to show you where to go. You still have to follow the tunnel. You have to walk yourself there. I can't do everything for you. And I think there's this misconception sometimes that, oh, if I go to my appointment, my 20-minute appointment, I'm going to be fixed or I'm going to be healed or whatever it is without recognizing that we are here to guide you. The work is done outside of the appointment. Now, I think the issue comes in when people don't necessarily have the knowledge or they don't have the space. And so I think there's health things outside of clinical care that are actually very, very, very healing. Let's put communities together, breathwork ceremonies, meditation ceremonies, exercise group classes, right? There, I can go on a tangent, but these are the things where healing actually happens. Your one on one appointments are guidance. But what I'm trying to do and what I'm actually working on right now behind the scenes of seeing patients and doing my one-on-one care is how can I actually bring these together and blend these, whether it is through workshops or, providing ceremonial spaces. Like we need to understand that there are multiple avenues of actually gaining our health back, but it's not just going to get fixed in an appointment.
Mhm.
That makes sense.
Yeah, no, well, it does. I mean, I can't tell you how many people have come into my office and said, fix me, right? Like
Yes.
literally like I'm can you change me? And I'm like, you're going to change you. I'm going to help you. I'm going to show you how. I'm going to give you the tools. I'm going to allow you to have the new perspectives, because sometimes, right, you're educating, right? You're teaching them something that was totally outside of their awareness, and they're going, "Oh wow, I didn't have any idea that that could impact this thing, this outcome that I want, this health outcome, or this, whatever." And it's happening over and over and over again, but it's totally up to the client. It's up to the person, the individual, to action those things, to go
Yes.
and be willing to do them, to create their own success, to create their own
You're
outcomes. Yeah, you can lead
yeah,
a horse to water.
ooh, right? Can't make it drink though.
Yeah.
It's also, how do I explain this? I think we've lived in such a disempowering, um, it's bigger than like a one-on-one appointment of what we're offering, right? Like we live in, I think, a society that is very disempowered, and we rely on other people to tell us what to do or to fix us. And I'm like, no, right? I have a lot of years of education and I want to help by guiding. But the empowering part is that you actually get to fix, if we're going to use that terminology, or support or heal or whatever you want to say, you get to do the work, which I think is way more rewarding.
Hmm. Right? I
Yeah.
mean, it really is you taking back control of your own life.
Yes. And I
Yeah.
find more people are craving that now,
Hmm.
which is
Yeah.
cool to see this like shift a little bit.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
No one wants to
Two?
be asleep. Yeah, two. Exactly. Two.
Number two?
Support.
Support. Um, see, I need like a checklist, otherwise my
Yeah.
brain's all over the place. Yeah, support for IBS. So I actually hear that a lot. I hear a lot of stories, and I love gastroenterologists. I think that they are incredibly knowledgeable at what they do. And at the same time, I think it just comes down to the constraints of the system, right? It is a very, here's your problem, and then hopefully also here's a solution. Um, so what I see is the solution for a lot of people is often um, associated or dependent on the diagnosis. Again, IBS, for IBS, we do X, Y, and Z. So a lot of the times in the holistic world, I see the FODMAPs diet. People have tried that for IBS, right? Yeah, yeah.
I did. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I feel like there's a story behind that given your reaction. Is there?
Yeah. No, I mean, like, I did the FODMAPs diet, but the FODMAPs diet is not a forever diet, right? There are
There's
there
a
are
study.
essential foods in that diet that you got to eat, right? And if you leave them out forever, like, what? You can't. It's a short-term solution.
I would love to see a study on people who did the FODMAPs diet long term and what their microbiomes looked like before and after. I would actually love to see that study because I want to know at what point, how many weeks or months in, is it actually detrimental versus beneficial? I'd
Yeah.
love to see that study. But, anyways, anyone out there listening wants to do that study, I would love to help. um, so that's one. And then the other thing I often see recommended by wellness professionals is certain types of probiotics, specifically bifidobacterium, which comes in the probiotic line, is a common one, right? There's tons out there, but those are usually the recommendations I hear.
Been there, done that.
Okay, check and check, right? This is resonating. Now, if you walked around as a label instead of Jessica Taylor, if you walked around on your forehead with a sticky note that said IBS, first of all, right?
Yeah.
Love that. You're not,
Yeah.
right? You're Jessica Taylor. You're not IBS, right? That would be a kind of funny name to walk around with.
Mhm.
So what's pretty interesting is a lot of my IBS patients, because it's a functional disorder, meaning structurally, if you did an image, everything would look normal, right? Functional, there's probably some function in the digestive tract not working amazingly. So I've done a lot of stool microbiome tests. I love this. If we talk about root cause, this is one of those deeply, deeply ingrained root causes is the gut microbiome. And what I've seen on a lot of IBS patients is that it's overgrowth of bad bugs. So staph is a bad bug lots of people have heard of, or strep, right? Streptococcus. There's lots of other ones, but bad bugs. And then if we look at the treatments or support for IBS, the FODMAPs diet and a probiotic do not do anything about the bad bugs. And so I think it's my approach to it instead of supporting a label, which you're not walking around with a sticky note on your forehead. You're Jessica Taylor. So if I treat you as a person and your stool test and your stress levels and you as a human being instead of the sticky note of IBS on your forehead, I find that's when people start to really heal because it's
Mhm.
personalized, it's individualized, it's not just a box.
Yeah. Right. And that can be the risk too when people go, "Oh, well, I just have this," and then it's almost like a blank check to not make changes.
Uh-huh.
Right?
But I also
And
think you probably see this a lot too. I also think people grip to that because it gives them sometimes an out to not address the things they're not ready to address. It is coping.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it is. It's a way of blaming, going, "Well, that's why."
Yes.
Yeah.
Outside of yourself, blaming that instead of, oh.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. It happens all the time when people are not ready to make change.
Yep.
So, okay. So then if I was, a client of yours, or if I'm a listener right now, like what are the five, root causes or 10 root causes, or what are you seeing? How can I go start to investigate my own health and take action on it?
Yes. Love this. Okay, so the most common ones I see, microbiome issues. And even I think the confusion comes from, oh, well, I don't have gut issues. I don't care. Okay, it doesn't always present that way. I do care, but the point is autoimmune diseases, multiple sclerosis, right? Gut issues, of course. Acne is associated with gut microbiome issues. And so just because it's not presenting as IBS, man, we've talked a lot about gut stuff on this podcast so far. Just because um, just because you don't have gut issues doesn't mean the microbiome isn't playing a role. I'd say it's one of the most common things I see. It can be skin, mood, doesn't matter, hormones, cholesterol. The gut is involved. So, gut microbiome, number one. Number two is the nervous system. I would argue they're equally as prevalent. Maybe nervous system takes the cake. You've, yeah, you probably see this too. And what I mean by nervous system dysregulation is anything from chronic stress, PTSD, anxiety, depression, right? Things where our nervous system is struggling to keep up with the demand of life,
Mm-hmm.
nervous system. I see a lot of environmental toxins. This is kind of an interesting one. So I have a little bit of a niche in my practice of mold toxicity because I've gone through my own experiences, unfortunately, and journey. And I actually almost lost my eyesight. There was a whole journey I went through myself. And so mold is quite an interesting topic to me. And it's not just mold toxins, it's environmental toxins like phthalates, right? We've heard of fragrance, parabens, right? I'm naming the most common ones. There's lots. So those cause, we won't use the word cause, they contribute to a lot of issues in people, like a lot. For example, somebody who keeps detoxing their liver. I'm like, well, why does the liver need all this support? Can we go a layer deeper? What is under there that your body's trying to get rid of, right? Can we actually address that? And maybe it's not even a supplement. Maybe they're constantly being exposed to these toxins and no one's ever looked into their environment.
Mhm. Yeah. My husband came home the other day and he's like, "Oh no, I read an article. Did you know that like poor quality like candles and like incense, if we're burning it in the house, he's like the way that it impacts the air quality in an apartment, he's like, we got to have the windows open. We got to have the HEPA filter. We got to stop burning them." I'm like,
First of all, he sounds great.
yeah.
Love that that he's into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what's funny? I live in an apartment too, and my neighbors sometimes burn fragrance candles, and I can smell it, and I'm like, oh no, what am I gonna do? I can't escape this. And I don't
It's
want
in
to be
here with
that.
me.
And I don't want to be that neighbor that's like, excuse me, you're spreading fragrance. I don't want to be rude, so I've never said anything. But every time it crosses my mind of, I wonder if I should just go buy them a fragrance-free candle, and then I wouldn't have to suffer. But
Amazing.
it's
Yeah.
everywhere. Like, and I think that the we don't want to freak people out. We don't want to stress them out. And I always tell people, like, just slowly start to transition your products, right? Maybe we slowly start to transition to natural makeup and shampoo and deodorant. Maybe then in a couple months, we focus on the kitchen. We look at what pans you're using, what if there's plastics in there, right? Like slow and steady because it's very overwhelming. But I would say toxin exposure. And here's the truth. You can't avoid it,
Mhm.
right? But you can be mindful. It's just you have to have the knowledge on where the toxins are and then actually take some action.
Yeah. I mean, living in Vancouver, every summer we get it with the forest fires.
Yeah, and I've actually, yeah, I run a lot of toxin testing and I can tell you it affects us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, more than people realize.
Mhm.
So
Okay. So that's three, right?
that's three. Let me think of
Okay.
the other most, to be honest, those, I mean, genetics, right? Like
Yeah.
we can't ignore that. Of course, there's genetically predispositions. I actually do run functional genetic testing. So I look at people's genes and then we can alter their nutrition, their exercise, their lifestyle, and their supplements based on that, which is so freaking cool.
Mhm.
Or I'm just a big nerd, probably both.
6 of
But
one.
yeah, I love it. It's so interesting. And some genetic things lead to health conditions that we cannot change. But if I know what your genes are doing, I can kind of understand, okay, how do we turn the good genes up and how do we turn the risky ones down a little bit to reduce your risk? So for example, we can test cholesterol genes. There's genes for Alzheimer's. If we know somebody's risk, we can create a lifestyle plan that's very targeted at reducing their risk. So genetics play a role too. And then I would say lifestyle, of course.
Mhm.
Um, I don't really feel like I need to expand on that one. That
No,
one's
that kind of ties into everything.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are the biggest. Um,
So then
yeah,
where like might somebody who's, noticing something and maybe they even already have a diagnosis or maybe they're just, not feeling their best or they're noticing fatigue or, chronic headaches or whatever, where would they start? Obviously talk to a professional, but if they want to, start supporting themselves, what direction would you point them in?
yeah. That's a great question. I think so. Sometimes it can feel overwhelming. And the best way I can describe this is if we think about ourselves like a tree, right? First of all, beautiful, big nature fan, earth energy over here. So we think about ourselves like a big tree. You have branches and leaves, right? And the symptoms we're experiencing or the labels that have been placed upon us, IBS, because we're here and talking about it, PMS, whatever it is, cholesterol, diabetes, those are just branches and leaves, right? And so people kind of are trying to pick off the leaves, and I'm like, no, give me all the branches and leaves. And then what I am going to do is take all those things and I'm going to narrow it down and look at the tree trunk, right? I'm going to look at the few things that might be downstream affecting all of the branches and leaves. And then knowing those few things, what is the root of them? And I think, to be honest, it's a little difficult to figure that out yourself sometimes. So find a professional that does root cause medicine or root cause support and work with them. And it doesn't even have to be me, right? I don't, it's not even about that. The point I'm making is that you could spend years using AI, using Google, trying to figure out what supplements support whatever you're going through. But if you're not getting to the root, you've just spent years and a lot of money on supplements that aren't going to work. If you just take that first step and that plunge, you're not only saving yourself time, but you're saving yourself all the guessing, right? And I think that's what people who do root cause support, that's what we're really good at. So find someone that you vibe with that does root cause support, work with them as a team. That's like my biggest thing. Outside of that, foundations. Foundations, foundations, foundations. Now these are sexy,
Okay.
sexy foundations. It's not as Instagrammable. It's not as fun and fancy, and you probably can't purchase it. And this is the interesting part. So there's a lot of biohacking and all that kind of stuff online, which I actually think there's some interesting stuff out there. But they do not replace the foundations. And the foundations don't get enough attention because we haven't found a way to sell them yet because they're not sexy. So
Yeah.
we can try to make them fun or whatever, but nourish yourself, right? And I'm not talking eat one meal a day because you're scared you're going to gain weight. I'm talking nourish yourself, like put some nutrients in your body, put some vitamins, eat some whole foods. Like, not that this is advice, but these are the general things that are actually push people to make a difference. And the number one thing I see is people are undernourishing themselves, whether that is eating food with no nutrients
Mhm.
or just not eating at all, which is a huge problem right now. So nourish, foundation, right? Sexy, I know.
Yeah.
Two, hydration, right? Like, I mean, I've been, yeah,
Yeah.
cheers. Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Hydration. People don't drink enough water. And I usually say like before noon. Oh, whatever time it is now. Like, how much water have we drank before noon, or did we forget?
Mhm.
So, nourishing ourselves, whether it is nutrients and vitamins or water. And then we look at sleep. It's, yeah, most people really struggle with sleep. And I would argue that a lot of sleep stuff is actually nervous system dysregulation. And I would love to actually hear at some point your experiences with working with people with sleep, and if you find hypnosis and nervous system is really related as well.
Oh, it's all about the nervous system, right? I mean, in the talk that we did a month ago, she was going over the four stances of, when we're in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, right?
Yes.
And those line up exactly with the coping stances that Virginia Satir outlines. And that's, kind of where we're looking, and we're going, if you're doing one of these things, it's because we're not leveling about getting our real needs met.
Yes.
We have to read, and I look at it as like the four little table legs, right? Your nutrition, your sleep, some sex, romance, relationships with people,
Connection.
and giving yourself some adventure, play, fun, right?
Yeah. Love,
Yeah.
love. It's very similar to my foundations. It's nourishment, sleep, and rest. Um, I put breathing in there too sometimes because I don't think and that maybe is more tied to the nervous system, right? But we're all like, no
Yeah,
one's
well, that's
act-
that's rest, right? If we're not breathing in a relaxed way, if we're not breathing all the way down into
Mhm.
our the bottom, and getting the transaction in the diaphragm happening, like
Yes,
we're just
right.
stressing ourselves out more.
I know. I think we'll just call this
Yeah.
category nervous system, whether
Yeah.
it's rest, sleep, nervous system. So you got
Yeah.
nourish your body, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nourish food and water, vitamins. You
Yeah.
got nervous system support, sleep, rest, vacation time, breathing, all the lovely things. Um, and stress copings and whatever. I'm gonna put sleep in that category. And then I would say connections. I love what you said about partnerships, romance, relationships, friendships. Huge. I have seen the coolest things with patients healing, not because of some herb. I mean, herbs do cool things, but the biggest shifts I've seen, to be honest, are mindset and somatic related and community. When
Yeah.
people go join that class and they find a group of friends they vibe with and they feel a sense of belonging, wow, like huge improvements.
I mean, it's human, right? We are tribal creatures. We're meant to be in groups.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is coming from someone who loves being alone. Love
Yes.
it. We talked about this at the talk
Yeah,
room.
but
But
you're the one that was supposed to go off gathering by yourself for 6 hours a day or something, right? In the bushes, and then you come back and be in community. You get that alone time.
I wouldn't be surprised if I was
Yeah.
probably more like a lady in the woods, like doing herbs and stuff by
Yeah.
herself. And the community was through like circles and healing women and stuff
Yeah.
like that. But yes, I need a sufficient and like excessive amount of alone time.
Yeah.
But I am a projector in human design, so it makes sense. That and then I really really like what you said as well about play and joy, and I don't think people infuse enough into their lives, and that is a foundation as well. What are you doing that lights your soul on fire?
Yeah.
Nothing. Well, we got to change that.
Right. When I ask a client, I'm like, what do you like to do? What do you enjoy? Right. If we're looking at the opposite of stress, well, what's feels good, right? How do you let out that energy in a way that's useful?
Hmm.
And they have no idea. And so
Yeah.
being willing to explore that is, it's pretty powerful.
I think too, for adults, it's the word I'm looking for. There's this hesitation to try new things, which is like kind of wild because kids, it's okay. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to learn new things. It's okay to try a new sport and be bad at it. And then for some reason, you graduate to being an adult and they're like, only be good at stuff. Don't embarrass yourself and don't be happy.
Hmm.
How does that make any sense?
Yeah. Well, there's this expectation that you should already know something. And if you don't already know it, well, it looks dumb to ask. Right?
Exactly. Well, what were you
Yeah.
doing for the last 20 years? Doesn't
Yeah.
matter,
Yeah.
right?
Not
Yeah.
pickleball.
Yeah. Exactly. Pickleball, volleyball, chess,
Yeah.
dance, none of those things.
Come on. Yeah. Awesome. Okay. So I think that that's a beautiful place to end it with those foundations, and people can, start to get curious about those places in their lives and what needs some attention and nurturing. And so I'm going to leave all of your details in the caption of the podcast. So if anyone wants to reach out to Larissa, please do. She's fantastic. She's got 2 locations in the Lower Mainland. She's in downtown and she's out in Burnaby, I believe. So lots of ways to connect with her. Um, Thank you, Larissa. Thank you so much for coming and joining me
Thank
today.
you. Yeah, I love having these conversations and having the depth associated with them. Like it lights my soul on fire. And also, thank you for creating the space to have these types of conversations because they're really, really important, I think.
Yeah, they really are. And hopefully we've helped some people make some changes for themselves today.